Hello everyone, my name is Ard and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be taking a look at LEGO set 77251. This is the LEGO Speed Champions Formula 1 McLaren F1 team MCL38, the 2024 McLaren Formula 1 team's car. It's got 269 pieces, which is a bit of the higher of the piece counts, but these all sort of range between like 250 to like 270. They're sort of in that range. They're all very, very similar in pieces. But one thing that's not similar into these builds that I'm just continued to be impressed by is just how different the builds are. This McLaren was probably my favorite one to build so far, and in the end it's one of my favorite looking ones. Now I'm not the most unbiased opinion when it comes to looking at a McLaren Formula 1 car, considering that they're the team I support. But at the same time, I think the Ferrari is probably my favorite of the bunch from this year's wave. Just, it's cool to get a Ferrari Lego set as a Formula 1 car. It's just always something cool, and that's definitely the case with that one. But this one here has some of my favorite details of any of them. Starting with my favorite thing of the entire set, the rear wing. Now, the rear wing design is the one thing across all 10 sets that I would say is pretty much identical. The build is very much the same. It uses the new, larger rear wing piece, which with a couple of these pieces along its side, and it's just built up very much the same compared to any of the others. One thing about this one is the sticker used for it, I think, just adds so much depth and shape to it. The thick black line that they have between the sponsorship logos right there, and how it's just a wavy line, to me just really gives it some nice depth. And I feel like you actually feel and can see the parts of the rear wing. I don't think you can say that with any of the other sets where it's just pretty much a logo. Whereas this one, having that more squiggly line through it and the upward shape of the new rear wing piece, to me just really emphasizes that this is sort of a it has two parts to it. You've got the flap, the DRS flap that can move, and I think this one sort of is the best representation of that in any of the sets so far. The build process for this one was quite different than the others. One part that's not really is that front wing, which just uses a bunch of stickers. This detailing for the front nose is, or the front wing and moving up the car is a print. It's a very nice print at that. It's an incredibly nice print. They're on all the sets, and I'm always amazed by just the prints in each new one that I build. They're just very nice. There's also the new suspension piece, which is very nice, and then you get to the side pod, which is where you'll see a lot of the differences with this one. Using that larger slope piece gets the angle needed for this McLaren MCL38, and it's quite nice. Also, these cylindrical pieces going along the rear of the car, that's a different shape compared to the rest of them. One thing that I guess is a bit of a disappointment in this one, considering that this one and the Aston Martin have the most comparable sets, because last year released a 2023 version of each of those cars, which the regulations are the same, so relatively the cars are going to look very similar. Now, I think these year's ones have improved on what they did last year, especially with the variances between them. I think they really improved in that department. But here is last year's one, and I think in almost every way it's an improvement. But one thing is you've got to actually like some printing right there. So that's just one thing. Yeah, this is last year's one, and I think just looking at this one, it's certainly an improvement. Moving to the back of it, there's the back of the rear wing with the McLaren logo, the hard tires, as you can see at this side profile. One of the more exciting things with these tires is that they have a larger, wider rear tire, and just the normal size. I believe it's the same size as last year's tires, which were both medium tires. One thing that's really nice about this wave is that you get 3 different dry compounds, this one being, of course, the hard, but the soft and the medium are spread across multiple sets. The halo can just be lifted up to get the minifigure inside. The minifigure, this is probably the most exciting part of them, is this new helmet, which for this case just has the McLaren logo on it. And then this is probably the most disappointing part of these sets, is just the race suits. Now, I think this one probably captures the McLaren race suit the best. I think this one captures the team's race suits probably the best. But there's just no sponsors on it. It's very plain, and that's the one thing that I think is any sort of blemish against these sets, is that the minifigures are just a little bit plain. Now, usually I don't have all that much of an issue with minifigures in Speed Champion sets. Buy these sets entirely for the cars themselves. But in this case, where the driver is such a focal point to it, even though you can't see the race suit, really all you can see is just the top of that helmet where you see the logo. It's just having a very plain race suit, I think, is a little bit disappointing. The steering wheel piece, like last year's one, is a print. It's in second gear there, which is an interesting choice, bit odd a choice, but yeah, that is the MCL38. Very happy with it. Quite like it. It's one of my favorites of the bunch. It was one of my favorites to build. And it just continues to impress me how different the builds are for all of these sets. It's quite impressive that they were able to make sets that are just so different in their build process, their build experience. And even if you're not someone who enjoys or watches Formula One, I think as a Lego fan, I think everyone should pretty much build one of these, because they really are just a fun build. They're a fun time, and I've really enjoyed them. And that's just one thing I found with these, is just they're very fun to build, and I don't think you see that a lot. You know, there's a lot of things that are just sort of a boring thing to put together, but at the same time, there's a lot of sets with great building techniques. But there's these Speed Champion sets, really all of them, but especially with these Formula One sets. Now, I don't think I could say that for last year's ones, where I did find they were a bit more simpler. These ones feel a lot more detailed. They feel a lot more sort of specified to Formula One, like just new custom pieces specifically for this. And I think that's great. Now, I don't know if that means that I'd love to see like a new rear wing piece or a new halo piece. I don't know if I want that. You know, that would make these cars more accurate, but at the same time, you get to a point where you almost sort of lose the Lego aspect of it, if you're almost making a model at that point. So where they are at this point, I don't really think you can improve much upon these designs. And yeah, I really like this McLaren, and I'm filming this. It will be coming out a little bit later, but I am filming this before the sprint in China for the second race of the season. This will be coming out after the Japanese Grand Prix, but I am filming it before the Chinese Grand Prix, hoping the MCL39 has success this weekend, and had success in Japan when this video came out. So yeah, I'll see you on the next Formula One review, which there's really not all that much to go left for these Speed Champions Formula One sets, but I'll see you there, and have a great and wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.